Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the City of Little Rock Board of Directors March 26, 2024 agenda meeting where we will set the agenda for April the 2nd, 2024. Um, Notate that we'll do some presentations next Tuesday. Board members, are there any questions? I do know one question that we'll bring up shortly, but aside from that, are there any questions as it relates to the consent agenda?
Mayor, I'm not logged in yet, but I did have a question.
Yes, Director Phillips.
Can we get who can try to read item 14? I really couldn't understand it. Could someone give me a presentation or a better understanding?
Yeah, we'll get to that. That's the one. We'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
Anything on the consent agenda? Board members, anything on the consent agenda?
I'm sorry, I thought 14 was on the consent agenda. My apologies, Mayor.
One last time, board members, anything on the consent agenda? All right. We'll get to item 14 shortly. Any questions on the separate items, 13 through 16? Clearly, there will be a presentation or discussion on 14. Anything on 13 through 16? And Director Computers, is yours about 14? We'll come to that. That's what Director Phillips just asked about as well. Do you got something else besides that? Okay.
13, I thought 13.
Yeah, the separate items.
Oh, you want to do 13? Yes. Director Pierce, you have a question? On 13?
I would like some of the members from Waste Management to come up so I can ask them a few questions.
Director Pierce, that's item 14. We're going to come to that. Did you have a question on item 13?
This is 13.
13.
Fire.
13.
I guess I must have a different one then. Mine said earlier, I guess. Did you rechange it?
The recycling. 13.
13.
Yeah. Okay. The one I had from earlier, I got the one from our meeting from 1:30. So, okay. That's my fault. My apologies. We'll still come back to item 13, Director Computers. Any questions on 12 through 15, except for 13?
To be clear, Mayor, I was 14, so those two separate.
Got you.
14 is fire.
Right.
That was my question.
All right, Director Phillips.
And I just wanted someone if can give me a presentation about this update as it relates to what we're doing.
Chief Hubbard.
Good afternoon, Mayor, to members of the board. Director Phillips, I'll allow one of my fire marshals who's heading up this particular initiative to share with you the benefits of this year.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Hey, so this is a third-party system for tracking our inspections in the city. It actually, we already do a number of fire inspections. Depending on the system, we've got sprinkler systems, vent-a-hood systems, fire alarm systems throughout the city that we receive inspections on this, and this is a system to track those inspections. And I believe this is particularly asking for a pilot program so we can see how this goes for the next year. But really what it does is it tracks these inspections and then it sends letterheads out on the behalf of the Little Rock Fire Department. It's just a more efficient way to keep up with some of these systems, to keep them from falling in between the crack. It really makes up for a lack of manpower is what it does.
And that's what I want to be clear on. So I understand it's a word. This is just related to the technology. The fire department staff, you all will continue the inspections, correct?
Well, sir, these inspections are done by third-party companies who are certified for these particular systems. What we do as the authority having jurisdiction is we receive those inspections according to Arkansas Fire Prevention Code 2021. We receive those and track those from there. So this is really a system that receives those inspections in, and it allows us to track them more efficiently. And then if one does fall in between the crack or comes out of compliance, they send a letterhead and phone calls on our behalf to get it back in compliance.
So the only thing we're changing is the technology to track the inspections. The inspections themselves are still the same, where y'all still contract with the third parties.
Exactly, yes,
Okay,
sir.
got it.
And the third party, this is at no cost to the citizens or the city. The third party inspectors, whoever that vendor may be that already is contracted through the owner of that property to do this inspection, they pay a submittal fee to Brycer. And through that, that's really where what they have in this is they get a submittal fee from the third party, but in turn, they kind of do a lot of our footwork for us. Now, if one of these systems falls out of compliance and doesn't come back in compliance, that's when the fire department steps in, goes to that location and you know, follows up from there.
Understood. I just wanted the clarity on what we
Yes, sir.
were approving. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Thanks, Mayor.
Mayor,
Yes.
let me ask you a question, and I think you probably answered it. It's a pass-through cost. This cost goes to the business that's being inspected, and you said there's no cost to us. I'm looking at the write-up on the board communication. There's service provided at no cost to the city. So
Yes, sir.
this is passed through to the business that you're inspecting?
It actually comes not from the business. It comes from the third-party inspectors. Whatever company that is contracted to inspect that system, fire alarm system, they pay a submittal fee to submit this inspection in our records.
So I'm a little confused about who's paying what.
Okay, so let's say you own a building and you have a fire alarm system. That fire alarm system has to be inspected per NFPA 2021 every year. And 6 months to a year, depending on your system, sprinkler system, fire alarm system. Well, you already pay for a company to come out and do that inspection. That company then sends the fire department that inspection as they have to do as we're the authority having jurisdiction. The company that performs that inspection for that business owner, they pay the submittal fee to Brycer to submit that inspection. And really, these companies, they like this system in other jurisdictions, other cities who've adopted this. They like this system because less fire systems fall in between the cracks. It doesn't, they have more reasoning to go out, find these systems, inspect these systems, because it makes it easier for us to follow up and hold people's feet to the fire to get them inspected.
Okay, so with my building, I have to let the fire department know that I've got someone, I mean, you know that I have someone that's going to inspect my alarm. I mean, I have to tell you that.
Yes, sir. We already know that. We get these inspections already in form of emails. This is just a more efficient way of tracking these.
Thank you. Any questions on items 16 through 17? Director Webb, Vice Mayor Webb?
Thank you, Mayor Scott. Is Mr. Collins here?
Believe, yes, well,
I have a question on item 16.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you give us just a little bit of background on the neighborhood opposition in particular?
So on this one in particular, when they presented the item, the opposition, and we had several letters in opposition to this going into the Planning Commission meeting. The opposition, there was only one person that spoke in opposition, and they spoke, I would say, very eloquently about just short-term rentals in general. It was almost, I was telling Jamie about it, it was almost a thesis of what would be against short-term rentals in legacy historic districts or historic neighborhoods. So they spoke more about the fabric of the neighborhood and how if they keep chipping away at those certain aspects of it, then they lose, then then the neighborhood's gone. Then it's just sort of more of a transient area. The people that wanted the STR, they said that they have the house because I believe the gentleman has children that are here and they live in another state, I believe Florida maybe, and they are here half the time. And so they'll be renting out they'll be living here in Arkansas at the STR half the time, and then half the time they'll be away, but then renting it to, I guess, sort of make up the mortgage payment.
One follow-up.
Yes, ma'am.
On the letters that you got in opposition, were they specific to this property?
They were specific to this property, yes, ma'am.
And what were the same issues?
It was the same issues that were brought up that the woman that spoke in opposition at the meeting. I believe she was speaking for the group, from what I understand.
Vice Mayor Webb, I received a number of calls about this, and as you know, the Planning Commission did deny this based on the votes.
And I got quite a few as well.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Item 17.
Yes, ma'am.
As well, I feel like it's similar, but I received complaints from the neighbors about 1219 Maryland Drive.
Yeah, so in the meeting, there was a group of neighbors that came out, and they were most of their complaints were about construction being done at the property, people parking in the yard, really using the property that was what one would not be representative of what would be residential. Going into the application, we told the applicants, sort of what they needed to do, and we told in this situation, I told them specifically, hey, you need to move the things out of the garage. You need to make room for parking. You don't need to be parking on the street. Certainly don't park in the yard. And I don't think I don't think they abided by that at the time of the Planning Commission. That may be done right now. I do not know. But again, the opposition was they spoke with great emotion, I would say.
And I see staff recommending, so I'm supporting the neighbors.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
And members of the board, just to kind of recall everyone's memory, as long as these entities, these short-term rental entities meet the requirements, generally staff is going to always say it's approved. So it's not necessarily that they like the actual particular deal. Based on the policy that you all have put forth to curb the number of short-term rentals, I believe, to 500. And so basically when it goes before the Planning Commission, when it's stating staff approval, is really, in another word, is saying staff approves that it has met all the requirements to be considered. And so just want to make sure everyone understands that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Phillips.
Yeah, just real quickly, Mayor, this kind of procedural issue. I know over the past couple of months, we've had some applicants on short-term rentals not appear before us. I just want to make sure, how are we reaching out to the applicants to let them know that we are having a hearing next week? Sometimes the applicants don't show up though. So we've had that happen before. So I just want you to remind us, how are we notifying applicants when they have public hearings on these type of matters?
We're in constant communication with them to let them know what agenda they'll be on. There was an example a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, where we had to move some items that were supposed to be on one meeting to another. So we're in constant communication with them, and so from the point of our communication to them showing up here, I guess that would be their responsibility, but we do.
Completely understood. Just wanted to make sure that was clear for our public,
Yes, sir.
that we do reach out.
Yes, sir, we do.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, seeing other items, before we get to item number 13, Ms. Perez, I believe you have a motion for Director Wyrick to consider, to share?
Yes, Director Wyrick, do you want to?
Let me start this off.
Yes.
It's going to help me. So last Tuesday night, we had an application that came before us to put in 4 units that were fourplexes on Sardis Road. I raised a number of questions in regards to the development. I didn't feel like I had satisfactory answers. I was concerned about sight distance because it's a narrow road and been a number of wrecks in this particular area. And so I raised a bunch of questions. There was supposed to be a 5-foot wall. And I was concerned about that limiting sight distance for people coming down the road. There's a couple of hills, rolling hills go through there. So I was not comfortable with the answers that I got from the planning staff. While we were here, someone in this room called the applicant and told the applicant we were discussing it. He didn't know we were having a meeting about his application, so he tried to get here and was not able to make it before we voted the application down. So I had a lengthy conversation with him last Tuesday night. He answered a lot of my questions that I had, but I didn't get good answers previously. I made a commitment to meet with him Friday in the field. I went to the location and looked at the layout of the apartments. I looked at the distance off of Sardis Road. I looked at the driveways. I looked at the whole terrain. And I'm comfortable with the application that he's wanting to put in. Obviously, he's adding traffic to the area, but it will take millions of dollars to widen Sardis Road to get as far down as he is. So I would like to propose a motion that we rescind our vote and that it would come up on our agenda on Tuesday night to rescind the vote. And I would like to have the application be brought before us again on April the 16th, and the applicant notified so he can be here to answer questions and let us know what his development's about. I never had a problem with what he was going to build. He's got a website. He's got some beautiful homes he's built, some apartments, duplexes. I never had a question about that. My question had to do with the site, the distance from the road to the site, access to the site, traffic, and potential wrecks that might happen. So he's answered my questions to my satisfaction. So I would like to do that. My motion is to rescind our vote. I think we had 6 against, 3 for. I'm on the prevailing side. I have the ability to make that motion. And so that's what I'd like to do, is have it come before us on Tuesday night to rescind it. And then the application come up again on April the 16th, so the applicant can be here. A couple of things came out of this. Like, I think we had a few items that we heard Tuesday night. We didn't allow the applicant to speak, or they didn't turn in cards. They weren't here. I don't know what the reasons were, but in this particular case, he did not know to be here, and we passed or failed the ordinance without him being able to speak to us. I think that's wrong. I think if an applicant goes through the process, pays his money, does all these schematics, does all this engineering work, he has a right to talk about his application. So I hope that in the future, when we look at zoning, that we do ask for the applicant to speak, or someone, the engineer or whoever's in charge of the application. I think it's wrong to do that. So I think that was wrong. So there were some other things that came out of it that I'll talk about a little bit later on, but that's the main thing, is give him an opportunity to speak.
Your Honor,
I
just
make
as
that
a
motion.
procedural matter, what Director Wyrick is doing is providing notice that on the April 2nd, 2024 meeting that she'll be making that actual motion. The item was item number 22 on the March 19th, 2024 agenda. It was item Z-9911 titled Songbird Residential Apartments, PDC. And so what she is providing at this meeting is just notice that the motion will be placed before this body on April 2nd, 2024.
Right. And then I would like for it to appear on our agenda on April 16th for us to hear that item again.
Thank you so much, Director Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Warwick, I voted for this last week, so I'm supportive. So these questions are purely procedural for me. For us to vote on it, because obviously we can't vote today because it's an agenda meeting, how many votes are needed for it to pass next Tuesday?
Simple majority.
Simple
Because she's
majority?
providing notice today. If she had not provided notice, it would require a two-thirds vote. But since she is providing notice today, on April 2nd, a simple majority is required to pass.
Got it. Thank you for that.
To rescind our vote from last Tuesday.
Right. And if I understand the other request correctly, then if it passes, the city manager, the acting city manager can place it on the agenda for April 9th for us to vote on April 16th. Do I understand that correctly? Okay, got it. Thank you. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. Just a quick question, Ms. Perez, if you don't know, I'll share what at least what Mr. Carpenter shared on item. This is relevant to, I believe, both Director Compuris and Director Hines, well, really Director Compuris, I believe brought this up on item number 12. Did he share with you his opinion on whether or not if the city board approved item 12 that we would have to look at doing the same thing with others?
I can tell you that we're still analyzing these questions, looking at the implications of if this were, obviously it's a policy question, and we're not only looking at the legal implications, but also the precedential implications.
With that being, and also with that being stated, just to members of the board, as you shared, there's still some analysis, but just to kind of give a preview of what Mr. Carpenter has seen so far, and of course, he'll have a final analysis. Basically, if we were to move forward, we could not defend against not allowing another area the same rights. So, excuse me?
That's absolutely correct.
So that's essentially what he sees right now. He wants to finalize that thought process. I know Director Compuris and Director Phillips both spoke to that. Well, I don't think you spoke to that. Did you speak to that, Director Phillips? I don't want to miscredit you, but no, definitely Director Compuris. There was someone else. Was it Director Hines? Well, you spoke to, yes. Definitely can't confuse you and Director Phillips, so. Yeah. But that being said, just wanted to highlight that for everyone. There'll probably be some decisions made once there's a final analysis. But I will report back to you. All right. That being stated, we'll now, I'll ask that Mr. Honeywell, and along one, just kind of give a brief preview on item number 13. And if needed, I'll exercise my privilege to bring waste management up, but I haven't decided yet. Just we'll see if Mr. Honeywell can handle it. And I know Mr. Compuris may have some questions of Director Honeywell.
get this up here, make sure everybody can hear me. Thank you, Mayor, board members.
Could you speak up a little louder?
Is that better?
Yes.
Thank you. So item 13 is an ordinance to do a contract extension for our recycling contract with Waste Management. That contract is due to expire at the end of this month. As part of this extension, there will be some revisions to the contract. It will have some rate increases that are outlined, but there's also some added services that will come with those increases. Glass is proposed to be included back into our recycling stream, as well as the clamshell plastic type containers that fruit and various other things come in that you get at the grocery store. And then the other one is aseptic containers? Aseptic. So aseptic containers will also be included in the recycling stream with this extension. It's for 3 years. It goes from April of 24 through March 31st of 27. The first year's rate will be $5.99 per month per residential customer. The second year will be $6.31. And then the final year of the extension will be $6.64. And I'll entertain any questions that anyone has at this time.
Members of the board, we're currently at $5.25
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that.
without
Glass.
And we know that many people, but particularly our Sustainability Commission, as well as City Director Cappy Peck, we've talked through making certain of including glass, and we were able to work this down significantly to still get glass at a very good rate. So just wanted to share that. Director Pierce.
John, if you remember the last time we did this contract, we took glass out, and glass was proposed to go in, and then through looking around, we found out that the vast majority of glass, if it was broken, when it went into the MRF, got in our landfill. And I think the percentage was 95% of the glass that we did. And I've talked to representatives from Waste Management, and they assure me that now that's not true. Can you give us why and the percentage of glass that people put in and how it will be taken out and why it will not end up in our landfill?
I could give you a really, really high level that we may have to have Waste Management come and talk to the specifics of what you have, but.
Well, 1 second, Director Pierce. Let's 1 second.
But as far as how much the percentage of glass that was previously lost or not captured through the recycling process, I can't speak to that exact percentage. But with the new equipment that Waste Management is going to have included into their material recovery facility, their MRF, they're predicting greater than 95% recovery of all glass material that goes into that single stream with this new equipment. And they have much more detail that they can provide us with that.
And I'm going to ask Director Pierce, just so do it better, just in verbal, if they can put that in writing and send that to the city board.
Mr. Mayor, I would appreciate it if someone would come up and explain how they're going to do that.
And Director Pierce, I normally don't allow folks to come in during the agenda meeting. I really don't want to start that process because then it gets in the way of procedure. And that's the reason why I want to put it in writing. That's what I'm trying to avoid. Then you'll have people, well, might as well just have board meetings every Tuesday. That's the reason why. But we can get that put in writing and explanation. But if somebody wants to go whisper in John's ear, they can go whisper in John's ear.
No, that's fine. Next week, we can ask them to talk about it.
Sure thing. All right.
Mayor,
Director.
I'm new, so tell me what MRF stands for.
Sure.
Please help me out with that.
MRF is a material recovery facility. So that is the location, the building, the facility that Waste Management owns, that when your recycling materials are collected at your home, it's all single stream. Everything's put together in one container, dumped in their truck, combined with everything else. They take it to this facility, dispose of it out of the truck, and then they have a process, which I'm sure they would love to give all of y'all an opportunity to come see it if you haven't seen it. It's a pretty incredible facility, but where they take all that material that's been mixed together, and they have a series of machines and processes that separate that material into all the different kinds of recyclable components, be it paper, glass. Well, they do glass because Sherwood and North Little Rock both recycle glass, which Waste Management also collects. But so all those different materials, metals, aluminum, all get separated into their commodity components that they then combine and then recycle through their contacts in the recycling world. So that's the facility that they use to separate all that material into those different types. That's what the MRF is.
Where is the MRF?
It's located out at the industrial port. It's on Fush and Sloan, right behind Prospect Steel, Custom Metals, Lexicon. It's just south of their facility there.
I'd love to see the MRF.
Y'all take it.
Pretty sure somebody heard that, so.
They did.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Director Adcock?
Yes, I would like to have a presentation next week from Waste Management on this, also showing the different items that you can now use.
Certainly.
Like the little square cups that you was talking about, because this doesn't sound like much, but when you add it up over the 3 years, people are going to get kind of concerned, what are we doing? I know that a couple years ago, we had people here saying, we want glass, we want glass. And I haven't heard that since the last time they was here saying that. So I see you brought your today. Good.
So these are the plastic that we were talking about that are going to be included. Previously, these were not included in our stream. So there's some examples of that. And then this is some examples of the glass that their new facility, the new addition that they're doing to their process. This is what the glass will end up looking like at the end of that process that they'll be able to collect and then use for other recycling purposes that they're using broken mixed glass for.
So both the tops and the bottom of that is going.
Well, not the container itself, but there's a bunch of glass inside. That's what the glass looks like when it comes out of their process.
Okay. Well, if we can have that again next
Yes,
week,
ma'am.
because we have lots of people that watch us on board days, and I want to make sure they understand that this is what we're voting on, is what they told us last time they wanted that we couldn't do.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Phillips?
Just very briefly, Director Honeywell, if this approved, the glass will go into the same receptacle as all our other recyclables, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. That's all, Mayor.
Director Webb?
Thank you. Mr. Honeywell, are any of these new items, they have different numbers on the bottom of the containers besides the 1 and 2?
I believe they do have a different number, and we can have that. We'll have a list for you, or we'll get it to you of exactly what those numbers will be. But I believe it is a number that's not included now. We'll get you a copy of this after the meeting. I'll get it scanned in to get sent to everybody.
Thank you.
Director Warwick, was your hand up or you took it off?
Someone else asked my question, so I took it down.
All right, so Mr. Honeywell, if you'll make certain that any presentation materials, that copy of that paper, that's all sent in a packet to the city board members. We do know some members still want to hear verbally as well as in writing, so whatever they can put in writing, let's put that in writing this week. But also, so Waste Management can stand before the podium next week during their item.
Yes, sir, we'll do that. Thank you.
Director Capiris?
If you're going to get something in writing, if you can get a third-party assessment of the process they're doing, that would be very valuable, because last time.
The capture of glass?
Yeah, because the last time I had to find how much went into the waste, and
Okay.
no offense to our neighbors in North Little Rock, but they've been paying for something that they're not getting for the last 3 years.
We'll get a third-party assessment between now and next Tuesday.
It's just, I mean, they don't have to take it anywhere, but it goes in their dump.
All right.
Thank you.
Anything else before the board? If not, anything else before the board? Anything else before the board?
Sorry.
Meeting adjourned.